Well, hello. Welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And boy, am I glad that season's over. I don't know about you, but it's been a tough ride. I don't know if I could have taken any more of these dodgy performances and players not pulling their weight, uncertainty. We managed to get a win on the last day of the season, which is all we can ask of the players. You know, we went into the day with the possibility of finishing sixth and grabbing that last Europa League spot. But unfortunately, results didn't go our way. And as I said, going into that game, we had to be very lucky and hope that West Ham lost. Unfortunately, they didn't. And there were lots of swapping and changing throughout the course of the day for the Champions League spots, for the Europa League spot, for that Europa Conference League spot, and then obviously no European football at all. It was an okay performance, to be fair. The game was always going to be a bit stretched, purely because Leicester were in the same position as us, where they desperately needed to win, and even with a win, results elsewhere had to go their way. So we needed for West Ham to not win. They also needed for Chelsea and Liverpool to drop points on the day. But yeah, they needed the win and they didn't get the win, so it didn't really matter in the end how the results went. So we'll go through as we normally do, line up, talk about the game itself, a little bit about Harry Kane with the golden boot and whatnot, and just what we thought of the player performances as a whole. So, line up for us. Hugo Lloris in goal. Doherty came into the side. Sanchez also came into the side. Toby and Reguilon retained their places in the defence. Højbjerg is partnered with Winks again. Bergwijn gets another crack of the whip. Dele, Son and Kane also remain. Now for the bench, it was Gareth Bale, Eric Lamela, Joe Hart, Joe Rodon finally came into the squad. Eric Dyer, Lucas Moura, Carlos Vinicius, Dane Scarlett and Niall John. Now, the reason why there were youngsters in there and Vinicius making his way back into a squad was purely down to injuries and illness of the other players. So, the names of the regulars that weren't mentioned there, people like Aurier, Sissoko, Lo Celso. Yeah, they all had slight niggles. We know that Davies and Tanganga were injured anyway, but those other three, I think it was Aurier that had the illness and the other two had knocks. So that's why they're not included. But, you know, in this game, we got the victory, but we certainly did it the hard way. We started the game fairly well, to be honest, considering how poor we've been with our desire recently, knowing that we desperately need points. I thought we were quite good to start with, but unfortunately, 15 minutes in, we have a penalty given against us. VAR had to look at it. The referee initially didn't give it, but, you know, there's no argument there. It was a penalty. Sanchez is at fault. Really, he's not the one that committed the foul, but he allows Vardy too much room, time and space. Vardy cuts back inside on a diagonal as if he's going away from goal, and at this point, Alderweireld's in a bit of an awkward position, so what he just does, he dangles his back foot out, and Vardy quite cutely goes over that, goes down to ground. He's furious that he doesn't get a penalty to begin with, but VAR do look at it. They give the penalty. He steps up, and it's 1-0. To be honest, it wasn't a great penalty. Lloris committed and dived the wrong way, and Vardy's just put it to the right of centre. Not a great penalty by Vardy standards, to be honest, but nonetheless, 1-0, there we go. And then, you know, games going back and forth throughout the first half, and you feel like it's going to be one of those days where we're just not going to do it. And bang, we end up getting a goal back in the 41st minute or something like that. It's not long before half-time. It's that man, Harry Kane. Doherty ends up actually having a shot from near the edge of the box. He cuts inside from the left-hand side from the corner and tries to whip it in. Defender heads it up in the air. It comes down. It's moving about in the box. And in the end, the ball ends up in the air. And I think you've got Dele and Harry Kane. He must have said something, or Dele just decided to leave it. Kane catches it absolutely beautifully. I mean, we're not far out here. It must have been, 8 yards, something like that. Beautifully smashes it into the back of the net. And it's more difficult than it actually looks because the ball is looping and coming down very straight from upward. And when you look at Kane's body position, he's got a weird body position in terms of where the ball is and where he is. So he's had to manipulate his body and kind of, he's side on, but he's had to bend his midsection to get round the ball. But, you know, he meets it really sweetly with his foot. It's in the back of the net. 1-1, game's back on. Come out from half-time. The game's obviously still fairly open because both teams need to go for it. There is no doubt in my mind that they would have been told about the other results in the league at half-time, which probably led on to how the pattern of play went. You had Chelsea were actually behind in their game. West Ham were winning. Arsenal, unfortunately, were in the lead. And it was looking like we were going to finish 8th. I mean, the last thing we needed was a defeat here or even a draw. It just wasn't good enough for us because of all the results the other way. So, second half pretty much pans out a little bit like the first half. They get another penalty. This time it was Davinson Sanchez that gives away the foul. It was a penalty, can't have any complaints. And this time Vardy is much better penalty. The only worrying thing is Hugo Lloris did not move. He was completely rooted to the spot. But it was a better penalty, and I think had he gone for a save, he'd have missed it anyway. So there we are, 2-1. And then 2-2. And now this was a strange one. When the corner first happened, Son takes a corner, and it looks to me from, you know, the first camera angles we certainly get that Sanchez gets a fine touch on the ball and it goes in. That's not the case at all. When you look back at it, Schmeichel actually makes a mess of it. He comes out. He is put under pressure by Sanchez, so I have to say that he did well there, but just comes out to either collect it or punch it and gets it completely wrong, turns it into the back of his own net. So 2-2, game's back on again, everything to play for. And, we did have some chances. Sonny had a chance. And it was just one where the ball didn't fall how he wanted it. He's actually made this beautifully timed run. I don't know how he's managed to stay onside from it, but it was executed so well. And the problem is, by the time the ball bounces, I think what he wanted was the ball to come down and him to just poke it straight in with his foot, but it bounces in an awkward position. He can't get the shot away, tries to turn it back to Kane, who's waiting to put the ball in the back of the net, and the defender just ends up clearing it. And I will say in this game, I thought Soyuncu from Leicester, I thought he was excellent, especially in the first half. In the second half, he wasn't as good, but his desire in that first half kind of it gave you everything you wanted from our players in the lead up to these last games, and we would have been in a much different position had we had people with the same mentality as Soyuncu. I thought he was excellent. He was closing down players. He was making dramatic sprints out the box. You know, he just did everything you want. There was, a couple of times he come flying out of Bergwijn, and Bergwijn had to think twice about what he was doing. So, without him, I think we may have had an easier job because we were creating chances, we were getting forward. But then that man is introduced, Gareth Bale. And, I thought he was absolutely excellent. On the day, Harry Kane ended up getting the man of the match. Probably because he got a goal and an assist, which put him top of the charts on for the Golden Boot and the most assists in a season. But even though Bale came on 68 minutes, turned the game on its head completely. So, his first goal, Kane's in the box, and there was calls for a handball on this one. Kane's in the box and he's working his way through, and he just can't get himself into a position to shoot because there's defenders in the way. The keeper's come out, which has denied him a certain angle. So he ends up divvying about in the box. He's by the byline, turns, sees Bale on the edge of the box, cuts it back to him, and it's just easy from there because Schmeichel's not in a great position. He's not in his goal at all. The defender is in about the centre of the goal. So there's this lovely gap between the post and the centre of the goal. Bale just comes along, smooth as you like. Not mass amounts of power. Sends it in along the floor into the back of the net. And now all of a sudden we're in a lead. Against our hardest opponents in this running. A team that is desperate for Champions League football. And there we are, 3-2 up. And that, we then end up getting another goal as well. It's that man, Gareth Bale. He latches on to some poor defender, and it was just a complete mishit from the Leicester player. Gareth Bale latches onto it, and from this point, he's only got one thing in mind. He drives towards the box, and he's got 3 players around him. Kane starts to make a run slightly out to the right. Gareth Bale, at the time, I was thinking, go on, slot him in. And, Kane would have done his thing where he hits it across goal and would have been 4-2 up. But no, Gareth Bale doesn't. He carries on driving. And because of this, there is a little bit of space because he's got a defender to the left of him, the defender to the right, and then he's got a defender coming from behind. But where Kane makes this run, it just means the defender has to keep an eye on Kane, because if Gareth Bale slots that ball across, he needs to shift and get straight onto Kane. So there's that in the back of the mind. But Gareth Bale just carries on going into the box, plays this lovely little slotted throwaway ball towards the goal, and unfortunately for him it hits the post and bounces out. But the one thing he did well, he carried on his run and it falls right towards where he is. He just has the eagerness to get to the ball first, so it's almost like he's just played a clever 1-2 with the post, and he's put it in the back of the net. And that man, there you go, has rescued the game for us, given us that victory to make sure that we finish above Arsenal. We ended up getting the Europa Conference League position. It's one of the... I don't know. How does everybody else feel about this? Is it going to be an unwelcome distraction? I mean, it's Thursday night football again for a start. It's more games that we don't need. And most of the opposition is not going to be great. Obviously, there's going to be teams filtered down from the Europa League, like you get with the Champions League into the Europa League. So that filtration system is still there, which still to this day I don't agree with. I think once you're knocked out of a competition, you shouldn't be given the chance in another one. But we know UEFA do it because they're just in it for the money. That's why they allow teams to drop down. So those bigger teams attract more people to watch the games. So, that is what it is. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one, because obviously there's the fact that it's still some kind of European football, so it may help us attract better players and a better manager for this coming summer. And then what do we use it for? Do we use this competition to maybe give some of the fringe players a run out? Do we allow some of the youngsters to get some important minutes under their belt? Until obviously the latter stages, because the good thing is about this competition, if you win it, it guarantees you a place in the group stages of the Europa League the following season. Now, if we don't have the best season and we were to win this competition, it's a fallback, like it would have been this season had we won the Europa League, and we would have ended up in the Champions League next season. So it is a route to better things. So in that sense, it's a positive, I suppose. But as I said, it could be a very unwelcome distraction. So let's now talk about the players. So Hugo Lloris in goal. Didn't really have much to do. Again, this is becoming a bit of a theme. I mean, he was okay. First penalty, he just dived the wrong way. Second one, it's a bit worrying that he didn't move. Did make him look a little silly. But yeah, not much for him to do. Doherty. Now, I've been not overly critical of him. A lot of Spurs fans have. I've been slightly critical of him because I feel like he can do better, although he has been played technically out of his natural position all season. But I thought that he was solid throughout the game. He actually kept the ball alive for our first equaliser. And considering the season he's had, I actually thought that this was certainly one of his better games. And he looked relatively comfortable for the majority of the game. So I was quite happy with him. Sanchez. It's been a very indifferent season for pretty much all our defenders in those centre-back positions. Now, I understand completely why Ryan Mason has put him in there. Like, we haven't got two rapid centre-backs, so one of Dyer or Toby had to miss out. With Jamie Vardy on that pitch, you need somebody that can at least get somewhere near him, and that man was Davinson Sanchez. Like, in my opinion, he was actually at fault for both the penalties. One of them, the second penalty, he did actually make the challenge that caused the penalty. But for the first one, certainly, he just wasn't strong enough with Vardy at all, which then led him on to Alderweireld and kind of left him exposed. But despite that, I thought he coped with Vardy fairly well for the majority of the game, other than the two incidents where the penalties came. And obviously you can't forgive the fact that that's two big mistakes that did cost 2 goals, not directly, but indirectly. But parts of his game were good. He did make a fair few blocks in the game, so I'm not going to criticise him too much there. It's just one of them things where if Dyer was on the pitch, we probably just completely get outpaced for the majority of the game. So we're lucky to have had him there. Although Vardy did recognise Sanchez's pace and tried to get himself over towards Alderweireld as much as he could. Okay, now let's talk about Toby. Kind of a disappointing one from him as well, actually. He obviously conceded the penalty, and I thought it was quite lazy, the way he did it, just sticking out his back foot. But then at the same time, Vardy had made the movement which had fooled him. So he had to do something, and sticking a leg out was all he could do. But his passing was off. It's not a typical Toby performance in terms of passing. But, you know, as we say, their only 2 goals actually came from penalties. So when you look at it like that, the defence have done fairly well. They've kept them out from open play. Sergio Reguilon. He's been really frustrating throughout large parts of the season. In an attacking sense, he's been brilliant, but in the first half, he certainly gave the ball away way too many times, didn't look completely confident, and I think he's just suffering with a lack of confidence at the moment. So yeah, not the best first half from him. Second half, he grew into it gradually. But yeah, another one, not his best performance. Højbjerg. Another one, again, not his best performance, but he'd set such high standards in his last season at Southampton and early parts of the season for us. I just think he was a bit burnt out, knackered from the season. He is the only outfield player to play every single Premier League game and every single minute within those games. Like, the guy is an absolute warrior, so I think we can forgive him for a few tired performances and some mistakes here and there. But apart from looking tired, he did okay. I haven't got too many complaints there. Harry Winks. I mean, it's a hard one for me. Like, I like Harry Winks, but he's been underperforming for quite some time now. And he's obviously got a real lack of confidence. He's reverted back to that sideways and backwards passing. I mean, he tries some nice passes every now and again. He did take a yellow card for the team. But when you actually look at it, he was the one that gave the ball away in the first place. So really, he just kind of saved himself from being embarrassed. But I mean, again, another one, he did okay throughout the game. He had to do a lot of defensive work next to Højbjerg. So we didn't get to see the best of him throughout the game. So not too many grumbles there. Yeah, and Ndombele and Lo Celso weren't in the squad anyway, so the only alternatives would have been Mora, Dele, or Lamela, and I don't trust any of them 3 in a holding midfield position. They love to run with the ball. I mean, Lamela's rash in the tackle. Mora's certainly not known for tackling, and Dele Alli kind of goes missing when he's in those deeper positions. So you had to go with Winks anyway. Now, Dele, he was okay. Again, another one that was just okay. He had some lovely weighted passes that he tried to play. And again, yeah, it was another okay game for him. Nothing that set the world alight. Harry Kane, he had a good game. He was pretty much at the centre of everything we did going forward in an attacking sense. He got his goal, which he took really well. He got an assist. I mean, it's what we expect from him, and he has had some quiet games in this run-in, which I think has cost us. Our big players going quiet, but he certainly did his job. And then Sonny, another one. It was okay. Like, honestly, no one in the squad really had an amazing game, apart from Gareth Bale when he came on. But, you know, Son made some good runs. The movement was a lot better than it's been of late, and I think maybe some of these players are just completely burnt out. They've played so much football this season, certainly more than we're used to, and I think it really hurt them early in the season. And then substitutes, I mean, Mora, tried to run at a few people. Oh, we didn't talk about Bergwijn actually, did we, of the starting players? Yeah, Bergwijn, he just didn't get on the ball enough for me, and in the first half, he tried a few times to run at players and go round them, and he actually ended up running into traffic, or players had read what he was going to do. Look, I do think he's more one for the future, and he just needs a bit of regular game time. He got his goal in the last game. But yeah, rightly so, he was taken off for Gareth Bale. But yeah, the subs, Moura, did what he does. Bit of tenacity, bit of running around, trying to drive past players. Nothing really to say on Rodon. He came in very late. Sonny came off on the 94th minute for Rodon. The other two came on the 68-minute mark, Bale and Moura. But yeah, Rodon, it was interesting actually that he brought Rodon on instead of Dyer to shore up the game. Because he's gone with Dyer in every single game so far, but we know why he hasn't in this one, and Toby's obviously the more experienced of the two, so that made sense. But yeah, Gareth Bale, that man, I thought with the time that he had on the pitch, he was, 5-star, absolutely 5-star performance. Took his goals well, very sensible. He finishes the season with a decent amount of goals considering the lack of football he's had, and I genuinely hope we try our best to get him back next season, regardless of who the manager is. I think a player like him, he's always going to get you goals. He's always going to contribute. He's one of them. He can do something out of nothing. He can be quiet for the whole game and then pop up with a goal or an amazing assist. The guy, he had some good touches, good energy. He got the 2 goals. He essentially won us the game. So I'm very, very happy with him. Now, so let's talk about Harry Kane. There's, the fact that he's run away with a golden boot in the end on the last day with Mo Salah not scoring. He added to his assists as well. And to beat somebody like Kevin De Bruyne to the assists is hard enough anyway, let alone as a striker. But I would like to mention as well, when you look at those lists, Kane actually, so he finished on 23 goals. Sonny was on that list as well. He had, 17 goals. So he was in that list. And then with the assist chart as well, that Kane won, Son was on that as well. They're both up there in those charts. So it's actually really interesting to see that both of them can be so high up on those lists, and yet we did not manage to finish in the top 4. I mean, make what you want of that. That just tells you how much we've struggled defensively over the course of this season and the way we haven't been able to kill off games. I do think there's other reasons behind that. We're not as good as we once were at pressing from the front, and maybe that's just because Kane has developed his game in a different way, so certainly hasn't got the energy to keep pressing players all game. Sonny is very wide for most parts, but has got better at tracking back. But we're just not very good at closing down the opposition defenders. Give them too much time and space, and then we give a lot of work for Højbjerg and whoever he's partnered to on any particular day. They have a lot of work to do, so there are tweaks and things that we could do to improve there. But yeah, because of this, Leicester miss out again on Champions League football when it goes down to the wire. They have bottled it. They've been Spursy, as you could say. And some people may have thought this might tempt Rodgers to consider the Spurs job. But he did come out and say in his interview afterwards that 200% doesn't want to go anywhere, very happy at the club, and they're in the middle of a project. And really, I can understand that. They've still got better football to look forward to than we have next season, with, Europa League for them. And he seems to have the backing of the board. The owners are very good. There's a very good feeling at that club, so I can't see why he would want to move. If maybe next season things don't happen, maybe he'll look for a move then. But certainly he's done a fantastic job there. And then, that day, it was a very strange day, wasn't it, in the end? Because us getting that win means that we actually did Chelsea a favour, which I'm not too happy about. Obviously, I wanted to win because we needed to get some sort of European football. But to allow them Chelsea boys, who lost on the day, still managing to get top 4. Leicester then lost out. I'd rather we were playing Chelsea and beat them and done Leicester the favour. But that's the way it is. West Ham, as much as I don't like them, you've got to credit them. David Moyes has done a fantastic job this season. They're very consistent as the season went on, especially once they got Jesse Lingard in that squad. They've been fantastic. The 2 Czech boys, for them, I think their commitment, determination, the way they work, fantastic. I would happily take either of those and put them in our squad. So yeah, really well done to, as much as it makes me cringe to say it, well done to West Ham for an outstanding season. Arsenal gave us a scare, didn't they, when they actually won their game? Like, there was moments when I was thinking, Jesus, how far can we fall in the space of one game? Like allowing West Ham to go above us, Arsenal to go above us, and miss out on European football. I don't think I could have taken that. So to fight back and get the win really, really made me happy. And it wasn't a game I was excited about, but you got to be happy with the result in the end. All we could ask for was the boys to win, and that's exactly what they did. Now, Ryan Mason's contribution in this last 6, I think, considering his lack of experience, we can't be too judgmental on him. I know we've criticised, especially me, criticised his team selection at times. I understand why he's gone for the players he's gone for. The only one that has really concerned me was Tanguy Ndombele, not really getting much game time. But on the flip side, when you look at the players that we have in our squad and the players he's had on the pitch, those games that we've had, apart from the Leicester game, which strangely was our hardest game, and it was away, and we managed to win, the other games were all winnable with the players we'd had. If you took every single one of those players and said that they were going to play at the best we've ever seen them, whether that be in a Spurs shirt or not, but if they all played to the best of their ability that we have seen so far, without a doubt, we'd have won every game in that running and finished in the top 4. So I'm not really going to blame Winksy. I'm not going to blame Mason. And the fact is, he tried to change up the way we were playing as well. So to give us some sort of identity in those remaining games, obviously I'm not happy that we didn't get Champions League football. I'm really unhappy that we didn't get Europa League football. But to take on the job with not long to go and manage to get the players to do what they did, I think he's done a good job, and I really do wish him the best for the future. I genuinely hope that he gets some sort of recognition in terms of job role. Obviously, he's the head of player development at Spurs, works a lot with the youngsters, which would be great if he could still do that. But I feel like there should be some extra involvement with the first team squad next season. But that's going to depend on what manager comes in. A lot of them already have their own teams in place. So we don't even know what's going to happen with Ledley King. He may end up having to take a slightly different role next season. I mean, we shall see. Who else do we want to talk about? Liverpool. I mean, geez, what a manager they have in Jurgen Klopp. They've had a tough season with all their injuries. Constantly big player after big player coming out, people having to play out of position, Hendo playing at the back, other midfielders playing at the back, having to bring in centre-backs in the January transfer window, which would never get near a top 4, top 6 team, usually. They're sort of 6th, 7th choice centre-back, youngsters coming in, and then to pull it off so late in the season, you can only credit them for their desire, and they really deserve to be where they are. I just want to talk about Pep Guardiola. I don't know if anybody else watched his on-pitch interview at the end of the game with Sky Sports when they were talking about what it means to him and stuff. They asked him about Sergio Aguero, and he started crying. Pep as a manager is insane anyway. Tactically, the way he plays football, but just to see how passionate he is about his team and players. And this is what happens when you give a manager time at a club. They build this rapport. They build relationships with the players. It's not a him and them kind of thing. It is a them collectively. You saw that in their celebrations where he was smoking cigars and they're all having a drink once they realised they were champions. But on the pitch, I mean, the way he was talking about Aguero, saying they could never replace him, it was really touching. And the other thing that I quite liked when he was talking about Man City, obviously Joe Hart left Man City in a very strange way. He obviously wanted a keeper that was really comfortable with his feet, which he has now. I mean, Joe Hart's not shabby with his feet, don't get me wrong. But when he was talking about players from that club that are really important, he only mentioned the 3. So Aguero, David Silva and Joe Hart. So that was a really nice touch, and I don't know if Joe would have listened to it or seen that, but, it just goes to show what kind of a manager and a person Pep Guardiola is. So, they are head and shoulders above anyone else right now. And, I don't like people buying the league, buying cups, which is what Chelsea did. So I really, really want in this Champions League final for them to have a taste of their own medicine, where somebody that's come in and done exactly the same thing that they did, I want them to destroy him. And also I want to see Aguero on the pitch, and I want him to score. It was just fitting that he came on in the Premier League on his last game, scored the 2 goals. I mean, Aguero has been incredible in the Premier League. He's been so consistent. What a player. He's going to go down in Manchester City's history no matter what now. So I just wanted to comment on those few things and those other teams, because I feel like they do deserve credit. Chelsea don't really deserve anything. Like, we hate them as it is, and then to manage to secure Champions League football without even having to win on the last day, it's just absolutely disgraceful. But that's what it is. So that is it. The season is done and dusted. The last thing we're really going to talk about is Harry Kane at the end of the game. Now, we saw in our home match him walking around looking teary-eyed, clapping all the fans. And then this is another one that gives you stuff that you could possibly read into. He pretty much hugged every single Spurs player on the pitch, had a moment with Ryan Mason, but there was one specific moment where him, Sonny and Dele Alli huddled round as the 3. I don't know what they were saying. They pretty much blocked out the Sky Sports cameras because of the way they were doing things. Now, was that just them congratulating him on having top assists and goals for the season? Was that them saying goodbye? The other thing that's been noticed is, I don't know whether it was I think it might have been Instagram. There was something up, and Harry Kane's wife Kate had put a emoji crying face. So, there's so much that you could read into, and I don't know if we're reading too much into it. But, somebody's going to have to pay a lot of money if they want Harry Kane, for sure. And I'm just hoping he goes to the Euros and absolutely smashes it, so his value goes through the roof. But I think of the teams that are going to want him, Chelsea's not going to go to, hopefully, because it'll be a Judas move. Manchester City don't really need him. We've seen what they've been able to do without a recognised striker up top. Like, they've run away with the league, and for large parts of the season they haven't had an out-and-out striker there, which means they could save a lot of money and just go get somebody like Danny Ings, who will bag them a load of goals, will do a similar role to Sergio Aguero, save themselves a crap ton of money, which leaves Manchester United, and the only way they're going to get him is if they stump up cash and players. And as I've said before, it depends completely on who those players are, because if they're going to want to get rid of them, chances are we're not going to want them. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Now, obviously there's no more games, so my plan is to do a video soon on the Europa Conference League and just explain a little bit about that, because there are some videos out already, but they're pretty much just sitting there reading what's been written word for word and still come across as a bit confusing. So there's been rule changes within there's been setup changes in the way the Champions League and Europa League work for the Conference League to come in. So we're going to talk about UEFA's motives behind it, what they've actually decided to do, how they're formatting it, where we come into the equation with that, what it means for the smaller teams and nations involved. So we'll do a video on that. Then I will do a video just announcing which of our players have been called up for their international squads, what we can expect from that. And then we move into the Euros. So during the Euros, I'll do some videos on the England results, but my plan is to also do videos talking about how our players are getting on. There's going to be videos on transfers without a doubt as the summer goes on. So expect them. The second we hear stuff about a manager, I will do a video on that. So you've got a lot to look forward to in the off-season. I'm also going to do a video probably some point this week about our loan players, just to let you know how they all got on over the course of the season and what there is to look forward to from them next season. So thanks for sticking around and watching that, guys. subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So we'll put a little aim on. Let's try and get at least 10 more subscribers from this video. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and be one of those to boost us up. Drop a like. We'll try and get, what should we say, 20 likes on this video. It's a nice achievable goal. So hit that thumbs up to like the video. And you can even turn on the bell notification so you get notified when the next video goes live. But from me today, that's it. As always, guys, stay safe and come on you Spurs.